Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Mic Check Podcast. This is T Word, the People's Champ. Here, my co-host Q. Today, we're going to talk about the upcoming NFL Super Bowl for 2023. And today, we're going to focus on the keys to victory for the Kansas City Chiefs. But before we do, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We do appreciate your feedback. Hit that button and follow us on Twitter, man. We'll be getting it in. You hear me? So, Q, let's go ahead and get it started, man. I'm going to kick it off with what I believe to be the key to victory for the Chiefs in about a week and a half of football. So a lot of people are going to say different things about what the Chiefs should be doing in order to negate what the Eagles do well, and then in turn do something that's just as effective on the other side. For me, that's going to be run the football. You don't want to get into a shootout with the Eagles because I feel like they have enough offensive firepower to do it. In their two postseason games, they've scored at least 30 points, and they've been able to race out to a lead against their opponents. The best way to offset a team that's explosive is to be very defensively responsible and make sure that you control the clock. I think the Chiefs are going to need to rely on their run game to do that, and I think that they have the tools to do so because they can run the ball out of different sets. A lot of teams only run out of the I formation, single back. The Chiefs can run out of I formation, single back, shotgun, offset, two back in the shotgun. They could do a lot of different things and use a lot of different personnel groupings, something that's a staple of Andy Reid's offense. And I think that's going to be the key to getting the Chiefs into a position to control the clock and open up the pass game. What do you think?
Yeah, man, I think that's an interesting take. I didn't really think that would be the biggest thing for me. I can definitely see your angle on that if the Chiefs can run the ball against the Eagles, I mean, the Eagles have had a great defense all year long. They've only been allowing about 7 points per game in their last few games. So obviously that's a strong point for them. I mean, I'm looking here, yards allowed. I mean, the rush yards they've allowed this season is below 100 yards a game. So they've obviously been a very strong run defense. So if they can exploit the quote unquote strength of the Eagles defense, I think that gives them a great chance to win. But for me, I'm actually going to go with the ability of the Chiefs offense to find other ways to run the ball. Because I think the Eagles defense is going to be pretty successful when it comes from a defensive line perspective. They have a great front seven. And I think that realistically, for me, I think they're very similar when it comes to defensive success to the Bengals. The Bengals' biggest part of their defense, in my opinion, was the secondary, attacking the corners, attacking the slot corner, and attacking their safeties. I think that's where the Eagles are probably the weakest on defense. They do have a very good single corner in Darius Slay, but I think that the other corner, as well as their slot corner, is not necessarily as good.
I agree.
I think you attack those guys with screen game, quick game. I think you attack them with quick decision passes. And ironically, Patrick Mahomes being hurt in his last game, I think really helped their offense to stay on schedule because he wasn't able to run around and try to make the big plays as much. I think that kept him moving the chains and kept him a little bit more conservative. So I think if they're able to use that quick screen game, whether it's, screens to Kelsey, whether it's screens to Sky Moore, whether it's quick game to Mecole Hardman, I think that all of that stuff is going to help them to get the big plays long term, because eventually those corners are going to have to step up and try to defend that kind of stuff. And then that's when you get those big bombs downfield. So for me, it's going to be the screen game. I think that if they can execute that, that's going to be a great way for them to kind of keep their offense on schedule and keep them from being behind the chains.
Now, I agree with you, but I do want to throw a counterpunch. And the only reason I'm going to throw this out there is because I have a little bit of inside information about one of the Eagles' defensive backs. So when you look at Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, he used to play for the Saints. One thing he's not very good at is coverage. But one thing he's actually fairly good at is playing around the line of scrimmage as like a pseudo linebacker. So when you run the screens, you have got to get in his head and get him in the coverage mindset and then set up the screens. So you've got to run your running backs on like wheel routes and angle routes and get them to clear out. And then when they stop doing that, he's going to sit back in coverage because he don't want to get burned over the top. And I think that's when the screens are going to work. So I agree, as a complementary piece to the run game itself. And like you said, manufacture a run game through the screen game. Flare outs to running backs, things like that. It will work. But I think you have to at least run them on regular routes early, maybe the first quarter, and then come back to the screens. And I think you'll see a lot of success. So I think that our two keys to victory are complementary. And Andy Reid, I hope you're listening because some of this stuff might work, man. I think that those are the things that the Chiefs can do to go ahead and offset what the Eagles do well. Do you have anything else that you want to throw in there before we wrap this one up?
Yeah, I think just talking from the other side of the ball, when you talk about defensively, I think that we saw a huge step in the right direction for the Chiefs secondary when you talk about the 4 rookies that they actually ended up having start. Now, did they want to have to try to test that in the fire against the Bengals? Probably not. Right. But they were able to make it happen on defense, make some plays when they needed to get off the field. And I think that they're really going to need to do that in this game. And I think the best way to do that is to get the Eagles to be behind the chains, so to speak, not allowing them to get 4 to 6 yards a clip on first down, get them into obvious passing situations on second down, and then not allow Jalen Hurts to have the easy throws, the same throws that they want to get Patrick Mahomes going with. They have to not allow those same throws to be available to Jalen. Jalen loves slants. He loves quick routes. He loves to get the ball to his guys and let them break tackles and make plays on their own. So I think if they can get Jalen to have to force the ball downfield as a defense, I think they're going to have a higher success rate for sure.
Forcing the throw. I actually think that aside from what you're saying, I think that because Jalen Hurts is a dynamic runner, I think that the pressure that they create against the Bengals, they kind of have to do the opposite and be disciplined on the edges and not have their defensive ends rush up the field as much.
Not let them out the back door, so to speak.
They have to rush wide. And even though you're going to allow Miles Sanders and Boston Scott to run the ball, I would rather you have to take your time and work your way down the field because eventually somebody's going to get tired. I don't want you to be able to have the escape routes with your quarterback and throw it. So I think discipline as far as QB containment is going to be the defensive cue that I would throw in there for the Chiefs. And I think if they're able to do that and start to force Jalen Hurts to throw the ball, he's going to look very human. And then you're going to see a different Eagles offense because now A.J. Brown can't make the plays he was making in the championship game. And I think the complexion of the game changes because now you rely on the run game that can eventually get stopped. And also you're going to be facing the clock if the Chiefs are actually making points on the other end. So it's going to be an interesting dynamics for the Chiefs at play. Those are our offensive and defensive keys to victory. Go ahead and leave your thoughts in the comments. This has been T and Q for the Mic Check Podcast. Thank you for watching. We'll see y'all on the next one.